My dad gave me an ultimatum when I refused to babysit my golden stepsister's kids, so I cut them off. And what happened next shattered their illusion. Have you ever been pushed so far by family that you had to make the ultimate choice between keeping the peace and keeping your sanity? Well, buckle up because what I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. When my dad threatened to disown me for refusing to be my stepsister's free babysitter, I made a decision that exposed secrets so shocking, it destroyed everything they thought they knew about their perfect little world. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. I was just 10 years old when my parents got divorced, and honestly, that was traumatic enough. But what happened next? That's where things got really ugly. My dad didn't waste any time jumping back into the dating pool. Before I could even wrap my head around my parents splitting up, he was already head over heels for this woman named Susan. I still remember the day he broke the news to me. He acted like it was just another casual conversation. You know, like discussing what to have for dinner. Then, faster than you could say wedding cake, they were married. It happened so quickly that I barely had time to process what was happening to my life. One day it was just me and Dad, and suddenly there was Susan and her daughter Melissa living under our roof. Now, you might think this sounds like the beginning of a beautiful blended family story. Trust me, it wasn't. From day one, I felt like I had become invisible in my own home. Melissa, who was 2 years younger than me, instantly became the center of attention. It was like someone had flipped a switch, and suddenly I was just background noise in my dad's life. Melissa had this way of getting absolutely everything she wanted. New clothes? Done. Shopping trips? Of course. Special meals? Why not? Meanwhile, I was lucky if I got a pat on the back for bringing home straight A's. It was like I had to fight for every crumb of attention while she got served a 5-course meal of love and affection. I'll never forget this one time when I asked my dad if we could go to this theme park I absolutely loved. We hadn't spent quality time together in ages, and I thought maybe this could be our chance to reconnect. He gave me that classic maybe response that got my hopes up. But guess what happened that same weekend? He took Melissa to some fancy art gallery because she suddenly decided she was the next Picasso. Our plans? Completely forgotten. If Melissa wanted something, that became the immediate priority. This wasn't just about little things either. My entire teenage years became a constant reminder that I was second best in my own family. I lost count of how many times I asked my dad for help only to hear him say ask Susan, or the one that really cut deep, why can't you be more like Melissa? And don't even get me started on Susan. She treated Melissa like she was some kind of perfect angel who could do absolutely no wrong. Meanwhile, I couldn't catch a break. If I came home 5 minutes late or left my room slightly messy, it was like I had committed some terrible crime. But when Melissa did the exact same things, "Oh, she's just being creative," Susan would say with this sickeningly sweet smile. The favoritism was so obvious that even my friends noticed it. They'd make comments like, "Wow, your stepsister really gets the royal treatment, doesn't she?" Yeah, no kidding. I was living this reality every single day, and it was slowly eating away at me. By the time I turned 16, I had basically given up trying to compete for my dad's attention. Melissa had secured her position as the golden child, and nothing I did seemed to matter. But I still tried one more time. I sat my dad down and poured my heart out, telling him how much it hurt to always be pushed aside for Melissa. His response? He looked at me like I was being ridiculous and said Melissa's had a tough time adjusting. You need to be more patient. More patient? I had been patient for 6 whole years while watching him bend over backwards for her and treat me like I was just taking up space. That's when I decided enough was enough. I started pulling away emotionally and focusing on my escape plan. College became my light at the end of the tunnel. The day I turned 18 and moved out for university, I felt like I could finally breathe again. I was free from the constant comparisons and the feeling of being unwanted in my own family. I threw myself into my studies, got my degree in graphic design, and landed a solid job. I kept my distance from home, only visiting for major holidays and keeping those visits as short as possible. Melissa and I barely spoke, and honestly, I preferred it that way. We weren't close, and I saw no point in pretending otherwise. Then, a few months ago, everything changed when Melissa and her husband Ben moved to my city. At first, I didn't think much of it. I mean, it's a big place, right? Our paths didn't have to cross just because we were geographically closer. But I was wrong. A couple of weeks after they settled in, Melissa called me up asking for help. She wanted me to show them around, help them get familiar with the area, maybe assist with some moving stuff. Since I'm not completely heartless, I agreed to help out for a few days. I showed them the good neighborhoods, pointed out the best grocery stores and schools, all that helpful newcomer stuff. I thought that would be the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. About a week later, the babysitting requests started rolling in. At first, they seemed reasonable. Hey, can you watch Olivia for an hour while I grab groceries? Can you take Max for a bit so I can finish unpacking? Small stuff that seemed temporary while they got settled. But then it escalated. What started as once or twice a week turned into almost daily requests. And we're not talking about quick 30-minute favors anymore. She'd drop off her kids at my place for hours at a time, leaving me stuck entertaining them while she disappeared to do whatever she was doing. Now, don't get me wrong. Olivia and Max are sweet kids, and I don't have anything against them personally. But I'm not exactly what you'd call a natural with children. I never signed up to be someone's personal, unpaid nanny. I work from home as a freelance designer, which means I'm busy during business hours, and when I'm done, I just want to relax and recharge. Instead of getting that downtime, I found myself babysitting almost every evening. The worst part was how entitled Melissa became about it. It went from polite requests to her basically just dropping the kids off at my door and leaving without even asking if I was available. Sometimes she wouldn't even tell me when she'd be back, leaving me to figure out how to keep two young kids entertained for hours. I finally reached my breaking point and told her straight up, "Melissa, you need to hire an actual babysitter. I can't keep doing this." She just brushed off my concerns like they didn't matter. "It's just temporary," she'd say, "or I don't trust anyone else with my kids." There was always some excuse, and she'd always pull out the "we're family" card like that automatically gave her the right to use me whenever she wanted. Things came to a head one Friday night when I had plans to celebrate my friend Katie's big promotion. I had specifically told Melissa that morning that I wasn't available that evening. She said no problem, and I thought finally, maybe she's getting the message. At 6 o'clock, just as I'm about to leave for the celebration, there's a knock at my door. Guess who's standing there with two kids in tow? Yep, Melissa. She didn't even wait for me to say anything. She literally shoved Olivia and Max into my apartment, mumbled something about being late, and bolted. I tried calling her. Nothing. I called Ben too. Straight to voicemail. So there I was, completely trapped with her kids while my night was completely ruined. I had to text my friends that I wouldn't be making it to Katie's celebration, and I spent the entire evening babysitting two cranky, tired children. When Melissa finally showed up around 10 that night, I was ready to explode. I told her this pattern had to stop and that she needed to find alternative childcare. She looked at me like I was being completely unreasonable and pulled out the family card again. I told her point blank that being family doesn't mean I have to drop everything for her convenience and that I have my own life to worry about. She seemed genuinely shocked that I was standing up for myself. She got all defensive, calling me selfish and saying I should be helping her more since she was new in town and didn't know anyone else. But I was completely done being taken advantage of. I made it crystal clear that I wasn't her free babysitting service and that if she needed help, she could hire someone like every other parent. Melissa left in a huff, and I thought maybe that would finally be the end of this whole mess. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. A few days later, my phone rang, and it was my dad. I could tell from his tone that Melissa had already gotten to him with her sob story. He started going off about how disappointed he was in me for not helping Melissa more and how I needed to be more understanding of her situation. I tried to explain my side, but he wasn't interested in hearing it. Then he dropped the bomb that I never saw coming. He said if you don't start helping out more, I'm going to cut you off completely. Now, I've been financially independent since college, but my dad had always been there as a safety net, helping with things like car insurance or chipping in when money was tight after graduation. I was stunned. I couldn't believe he was threatening to disown me over babysitting duties. So I asked him directly, "Are you really going to cut me off over this?" He didn't hesitate. "If you're not going to help your family, then yes." That's when something inside me snapped. I told him, "Fine, cut me off. I don't need your money, and if this is how you're going to treat me, maybe we shouldn't talk at all." He went quiet, probably not expecting me to actually call his bluff. Then he sighed and said he was really disappointed in me, that I had changed. Changed? I hadn't changed. I had just finally reached my limit. I hung up on him and sat there processing what had just happened. Part of me was furious, part of me was heartbroken, but mostly I felt this strange sense of relief. I was finally free from their manipulation and guilt trips. The next day, I got an aggressive text from Melissa calling me selfish and telling me not to bother coming around if I wasn't willing to help. I fired back, telling her I had helped more than enough and that she had done nothing but take advantage of me. I told her to find someone else because I was done being her unpaid babysitter. But then something interesting happened. My friend Jessica called me with some shocking information. She had run into Melissa at the mall earlier that day, and Melissa was with some guy who definitely wasn't Ben. Jessica said they were holding hands, acting way too close for just friends, and she was pretty sure she saw them kiss. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. All those random errands Melissa needed to run, all the times she desperately needed me to watch the kids, all the vague explanations about where she was going. She hadn't been overwhelmed or struggling to adjust to the new city. She had been using me as free childcare so she could sneak around and have an affair. I was absolutely furious. Here I had been feeling guilty about not helping her enough, and the entire time she was just using me to cover for her cheating. I couldn't let this slide. Ben was a good guy, and he deserved to know what was really going on. So I made a plan. The next time Melissa asked me to babysit, I said yes. I was going to catch her in the act. She dropped off the kids like usual, and I pretended everything was normal. But instead of staying home, I took Olivia and Max to Jessica's place where I knew they'd be safe, then drove to the mall to see if I could catch Melissa with this mystery man. I didn't have to wait long. About 30 minutes later, I saw her walking out arm in arm with the same guy Jessica had described. They looked way too comfortable together for just friends. I snapped a few photos from my car and left without confronting them. I wanted to handle this the right way. When I got home, I sent the photos to Ben along with an explanation of what I had discovered. I told him how Melissa had been using me to babysit so she could run around behind his back. It was probably one of the hardest messages I've ever had to send because I knew it was going to devastate him, but he deserved to know the truth. Ben didn't respond right away, and I didn't expect him to. A couple of hours later, he finally replied, thanking me for telling him. He said he was heartbroken but had suspected something was going on. He told me he was going to confront her that night. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of angry texts from Melissa. She was absolutely furious, accusing me of ruining her life and sticking my nose where it didn't belong. She tried to turn it around on me, saying I was just bitter and jealous and wanted to destroy her family. The nerve of this woman was unbelievable. I didn't even bother responding. I knew I had done the right thing, and no amount of guilt tripping from her was going to change that. Then I got another text from my dad. Of course, Melissa had run crying to him about how I had betrayed her and ruined her marriage. And predictably, he took her side, sending me a long message about how disappointed he was and how I wasn't acting like family. That's when I realized the situation was never going to get better. My dad was never going to see my side of things. He was too invested in protecting Melissa to ever admit she might be wrong. So I sent him one final text. If you can't see that I did the right thing, then maybe it's better we don't talk. And that was it. I cut them both off completely. About a week later, Ben called me. I was nervous about what he might say, but to my surprise, he was calling to thank me. He told me that after confronting Melissa with the photos, she eventually admitted to the affair. They were getting divorced, and he was planning to move away with the kids to start fresh somewhere else. He said something that really stuck with me: you did the right thing, don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. That's exactly what I needed to hear. For so long, I had been questioning myself, wondering if I was being too harsh or if I was the problem. But hearing Ben say that confirmed what I already knew deep down. Melissa kept trying to reach out after that, sending more guilt-laden texts and even showing up at my apartment building a few times. I blocked her number and told building security not to let her up. I was done with the drama and wasn't going to let her manipulate me back into her mess. The final attempt came from my dad, who left me a desperate voicemail about how family is everything and how he didn't want to lose me. But even in that message, he was making excuses for Melissa and asking me to be more understanding. I realized then that he was never going to change. He was always going to put Melissa first, no matter what she did. So I called him back one last time. I told him I loved him but couldn't keep sacrificing my peace of mind to hold this dysfunctional family together. I said if he couldn't respect my boundaries and see things from my perspective, then maybe we needed to take a break from talking. He tried to argue, but I didn't let him. I was tired of always being the one who had to bend and give in. It's been several months since I cut contact with both my dad and Melissa, and honestly, I'm in a much better place now. I have my peace back, my life back, and I'm no longer dealing with constant drama, manipulation, and guilt trips. I've been focusing on myself and my own happiness, and it feels incredible. Sure, I miss my dad sometimes, but I don't miss the stress and emotional turmoil that came with trying to maintain that relationship. And as for Melissa, I haven't heard from her since, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Sometimes in life, you have to make the tough choice to walk away from toxic people, even when they're family. Blood doesn't automatically give someone the right to treat you poorly or use you for their own benefit. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for your mental health and well-being. If you're dealing with similar family drama or toxic relationships, remember that you have the right to protect your peace. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your time, energy, or emotional well-being, regardless of your relationship to them. What do you think? Did I do the right thing by exposing Melissa's affair and cutting off contact with my family? Have you ever had to make a similar choice between family loyalty and your own well-being? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama and relationship stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.